Well, Armed Services is going to be beginning the markup of the NDAA this afternoon. I want to repeat my own view that the top line on defense that came out of the debt ceiling issue is inadequate. If we really want to have an impact on competing with China, we can't do it by having lower numbers for defense. I don't know what the committee will do, but I'm hoping there'll be a fulsome discussion about whether the Biden number is adequate. If you look at all of our allies around the world, they're increasing their spending on defense. An appropriate reaction to what's going on in Ukraine and to Chinese expansionism. So it'll be interesting to see what the committee recommends, if anything, to get our defense number into a better place.
Well, very soon, and any day now perhaps, the Supreme Court is going to be ruling on President Biden's student loan forgiveness scheme. And I just think that the American people find it offensive to think that they could take the 13% of people in this country who have student loans, take that debt and transfer it to the 87% of people who don't have student loans. And that's what we're doing. This is all going on the national debt. It's all on the federal debt. This was purely a political ploy on the president's part. And it's really unfortunate because I think that if you look at the people in this country who work hard every day, in many cases didn't have an opportunity to go to college, or those who worked hard to help scrimp and save so they could get through school, or their parents did that for them so they could get through school, or they paid their loans down. I mean, there are a whole lot of people in this country who fit into that category. It's the 87% of the taxpayers who are going to be footing the bill. The debt's going to be transferred to them from the 13% who have student loan debt. And the really ironic thing about it is the National Bureau of Economic Research found that this policy has encouraged people to take out even more student debt because they're getting some of their debt paid down. They're now taking out more debt. So it's just leading to more debt on top of the debt that's already owed because they're not paying it back. The president clearly knew that the Supreme Court was likely to strike this down. I certainly hope that is what ends up happening. And I believe they went into this with their eyes open, but I also think it was, again, it was a political year, attempt to try and influence votes in an election year, but really truly unfortunate because he hasn't done anything meaningful to address the high cost of college education. This was a political ploy, and ultimately in the end, I think that I'm hoping certainly that the Supreme Court strikes it down. And when they do, there'll be a lot of unhappy people out there, and those unhappy people will have one place to look, and that's the White House, because they went into this, I think, fully knowing that this was going to be struck down. There'll be a lot of people who are going to have to start paying loans back, and that's what should have happened in the first place. The $1 trillion giveaway by this administration.
Joe Biden and the Democrats seem hell-bent on destroying this country. With the 4th of July Independence Day just around the corner, I had a chance to visit in Wyoming with our Veterans of Foreign War and our American Legion. These are the people who fought for our freedoms. And they believe that under Joe Biden and the Democrats, this country is a nation in retreat. They see a military that is weakened because they are forced to focus on liberal ideology instead of military strength and strategy. They see a southern border that is wide open as fentanyl and felons flood our cities and kill our children. I also had a chance to visit with our delegates to Boys State and Girls State. These are the best and the brightest in the future of our nation. Wyoming is the equality state. We believe in equal opportunity, not equal outcome. Outcome based on effort, not existence. We see the economy as a ladder to climb, not a line to wait in. And all of these groups that I met with believe in the American dream and American exceptionalism. They believe we are a country of greatness, not of grievance. So when Joe Biden took office, gave his inaugural address, he pledged to bring the nation together. That's not what happened. Instead, it seems that Joe Biden and the Democrats spend just about every day stripping away our freedoms and undermining the things that have made this country great. They've undermined American energy security and our economic strength. They've worked to make us more dependent on our enemies and dependent on the government. So it is no surprise that the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign War and at Boys State and Girls State, people all believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Republicans are focused on getting our nation back on track. And to do that, we need to stop inflation, cut wasteful Washington spending, and unleash American energy once again.
Hi, everybody. Tomorrow, the Appropriations Committee will begin the process of marking up our first bills. We're going to mark up military VA and the appropriations for agriculture. So this is a good first step. We were promised a process by Senator Schumer that we were going to see these bills on the floor. Well, you can look and see what we're doing on the floor. Not much. And we are going to have plenty of time, hopefully, if it keeps at this pace, to actually do what we should be doing and should have been doing, which is doing our appropriations bills on the floor with people offering amendments and actually having a say in how our government spends the money. Now, we were promised a transparent process. I'm on appropriations. We just got numbers. I'm ranking member on Labor H. We just got numbers late last night, and we're going to be voting on these numbers tomorrow. These were strictly done within the Democrat caucus of the Appropriations Committee. They were not done in a bipartisan way, and so we've had no input on how much we're going to spend in individual committees. This, to me, concerns me, especially after we've been promised a process that's going to be open and fair. And so we're hopeful that tomorrow we'll probably air these differences, but hopefully we'll have two bills that we'll be able to vote on, have amendments on, and begin that process. On a totally different topic, the border. The numbers in May were just released yesterday. 204,361 illegal encounters. That doesn't count the gotaways. That's over 200,000. That means over the course of the Biden administration, 5.5 million illegals, many of them just released in the country with no times, no obligations, just to meet with somebody in the future from immigration to set up a court date 5, 6, and 7 years into the future. Very disappointing. From my view of the state of West Virginia, the 41,000 pounds of fentanyl that were seized last month is enough to kill everybody in this country, apparently 28 times. This is killing over 100,000 Americans every year. This battle about stopping not just the illegal immigration of human trafficking, but this trafficking of this deadly substance of fentanyl has got to be a focus of this administration. We got a lot of bills around in the House and the Senate, but until the administration gets serious about this and makes sure that this is the main focus on our southern border, it just keeps going up and up and up. And it's very, very sad and very difficult for families all across the country.
I'm guessing there's a few fans here of the show Yellowstone who maybe believe that John Dutton is the governor of Montana. I will tell you that's not true. It's Greg Gianforte, who's been a great friend of mine and somebody who I built businesses with and created jobs over many years. What I'm about to share with you, you might think is another episode or script coming from the show Yellowstone, coming out of Hollywood. What I'm going to share with you is a script coming out of the White House, out of the Biden administration. I never thought I'd live to see the day where an administration would be supportive of breaching hydro dams when they're stopping Keystone Pipeline, stopping oil and gas leases, mandates on reducing the number of gas stoves we can have, mandates that require 2/3 of our vehicles be electric in the next 10 years. And then he goes as far to support breaching a hydropower dam, a renewable source of energy, zero carbon, baseload power. I never thought I'd be here talking about that. Hydropower energy is safe, it's reliable, it's one of the low-cost forms of energy we have in our entire portfolio. And breaching a hydropower dam when the world is going to need 50% more power in the next 25 years than we use today, it's the last thing we should be doing. We should be supporting and promoting hydropower, not supporting efforts to breach them as the Biden administration is doing. The dams on the lower Snake River produce enough electricity to power about 800,000 homes in the Northwest U.S. In Montana, 40% of our electricity comes from hydropower. Biden claims that this breaching of the dam would, quote, protect family farms, outdoor recreation businesses, and rural communities, but in reality, it's exactly the opposite. At a time when we need more reliable, affordable, low-cost energy, zero-carbon energy, the administration is going in an opposite direction. I can tell you Montanans know that we want to see an expanded energy portfolio, more options to consider. This is the last thing we should be doing, and I call on the Biden administration to back off this idea of breaching hydropower dams.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns about the plea agreement that Hunter Biden reached with the Justice Department? Like other Republicans call this a sweetheart deal.
Well, it's a little confusing. I think the department put out a statement saying it wasn't concluded yet. So I thought, based upon what I read all of you wrote, that the case was essentially over. We'll find out, I guess, whether there's some additional step.
Leader McConnell.
Alex?
Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse say they're going to mark up Supreme Court ethics legislation in July. Do you think there would be 9 or 10 Republican votes for that, or would you like to see the Supreme Court put out some sort of ethics reform themselves?
Look, the Supreme Court, in my view, can't be dictated to by Congress. I think the Chief Justice will address these issues. Congress should stay out of it because we don't, I think, have the jurisdiction to tell the Supreme Court how to handle the issue. I have total confidence in Chief Justice John Roberts to, in effect, look out for the court as well as its reputation.
Leader McConnell, is it time for Senator Tuberville to back off of his holds of senior military promotions?
Well, I have said earlier, and I would repeat today, that I think holding these military personnel who have nothing to do with policy in order to try to dictate a policy change that I personally support is not the best way to go about it. But as you can see, so far, he has a different point of view.
Mr. Leader, do you think President Biden